Hey guys, welcome to a new video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over how I use Pinterest advertising specifically for print on demand. I'm going to explain, I think this is honestly a perfect video for most beginners to watch. And I want to give a little bit of I guess you could say a warning before you, or like a disclaimer kind of thing. When I say something in this video, don't jump to conclusions right away. And I know that sounds bad, but I'm just going to give you a perfect example, okay? You see these two photos here? These are the only two strategies that are included within Pinterest specifically for advertising to cold traffic, okay? You have the burning cash strategy, and you also have the laser targeting strategy. There's only two strategies, okay? Immediately, some people, when they hear the word burning cash, they think one is better than the other. They think one is bad, right? The burning cash one. People think that might sound bad. I want you to take all of your beliefs and get rid of them. All right? This is what I mean when I say don't jump to conclusions, because I'll perfectly explain what I'm talking about here. Pinterest advertising is one of those things that is difficult to achieve success with in the beginning for most people who have never advertised before. And I completely empathize with that, and I completely understand. You're watching this video, maybe you're not doing print on demand, but you're watching this video because you want to learn how to pay for ads and how to get a return. The truth is that with advertising, it is absolutely a machine. You put in money, you get money out. Now, that is not always the case. It depends on how successful you are. But let's just say with everything that works, meaning the profit margins are right, the ad campaign works, the cost of the ad, it doesn't exceed a certain budget, all these kind of things, if they all work, you can almost guarantee profit. But there are so many working parts to advertising that cause people to fail. So you have to take things step by step by step by step. So do not jump to conclusions, guys. All right? I'm going to explain every single thing. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, something that I do want to say is after I describe certain things here, I'm going to explain on a whiteboard how I do the advertising. Okay? I'm going to explain, like drawing it out literally to explain it. Sometimes I like to teach things with a visual approach through a whiteboard, all right? So if you want to stay along for this whole entire video, you're going to catch that at the end. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Cold traffic. What is cold traffic? For the sake of this video, we're going to define cold traffic as customers, or not even customers, let's just call them viewers, or let's call them people, or an audience. That's a better word. An audience, right? An audience of people that are not aware of your brand. Let's just leave it at that. Cold audience, okay? Now, Pinterest is very effective when it comes down to acquiring cold traffic. Why is that? It is because if you look at the other ad platforms out there, it is significantly cheaper. In fact, on my course page, and I'm not trying to sit here and promote my course. If you want to, it's there. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Trust me, you really don't. I put a little banner that explains here the pricing of a CPM. What is a CPM? Cost per milli. Millet, it's really pronounced. Or millet, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not French. Anyways, MILLE. What it is, a milli means 1,000 impressions. That's really what it means, right? And what is an impression? It means that the ad emerges 1,000 times, okay? Now, that's not necessarily considered a view because it depends on the platform, right? Just because an ad pops up doesn't mean somebody actually sees it with their eyeballs and focuses on it, but it does pop up on the screen. I want to be clear about that, okay? So if you look here, the CPM, the averages, we're talking about the average across the whole entire platform, is $2 to $5. There are some people who are in certain industries that might experience much, much lower, and there are certain people that might experience much, much higher. So for your ad to appear 1,000 times, right, it could be $2, it could be $8, it could be $15, it could be $4, right? But that's the average, from 2 to 5. For AdSense, for Google AdWords, anywhere from $34 to $38 costs much, much more. So you're looking at almost 7 times more the maximum end on Pinterest. For Facebook, right, you're looking a little bit cheaper than Google. You're looking at $25 to $30. Still very significant. On the high end, 6 times more, right? On the low end, 5 times more compared to the maximum of Pinterest. So it's very significant. And Pinterest is one of those things, it's a great platform that actually helps you when you advertise. Let me explain. Everybody here is familiar with organic versus inorganic. Organic means that you make a post on the platform and you get traffic organically. But a lot of times you need that first start, that roll. How does that happen with Pinterest? Well, with Pinterest, unfortunately, you can't use the same strategies we use for Instagram. Instagram is very effective. We know how to get really, really good traffic next to free, right, using different tools. But with Pinterest, if you try to use any of these tools, they're not going to work. In fact, they're actually going to harm you. The following count doesn't really matter nearly as much as the impressions, but as a byproduct on Pinterest, the more impressions you get typically tends to come from the more followers you have, meaning an account with 67,000 followers is typically going to get, let's say, anywhere from 3 million to 14 million impressions, depending on how they're posting, right? But an account with, let's say, 5,000 followers is going to get much, much less impressions, right? Now, we could make room for things that are possibilities, but we're talking about probabilities, okay? So I want to talk about most people's experience. I don't want to talk about the 1% whose pins go viral. A lot of people get their attention. Next thing you know, they're getting 50,000 followers a month. We're not talking about those people. We're talking about most people, okay? Now, how does this topic of talking about organic media connect with ads? Well, it's very simple. When you pay for advertising, you can also have a chance at growing your organic following. The more followers you have, the more content you post that is organic, the more traffic you can get. Now, I want to be clear. When I talk about Pinterest ads, it is no success is reliant on organic media. You can be completely successful on paid media alone. I want to be clear about that. I want to be very, very clear about that, all right? So let's go ahead and continue with what I'm talking about. If you remember in the beginning of the video, I mentioned there's only 2 strategies when it comes down to cold traffic ads. You have the burning cash strategy and you have the laser targeting strategy. I only do laser targeting. I do not do burning cash. The reason why is because with Pinterest actually allows us to do laser targeting. Which brings me to one of my points here, is that there are platforms that do not do laser targeting. An example of that is Facebook. Now, what is laser targeting? It's very clear. I can target an individual based on what they want to see, not based on interest, based on specific needs. I want to be clear about that. That's important because the burning cash strategy is what most of you will see on YouTube. If you do a basic search on YouTube, on Pinterest advertising, you could do this anytime. Most videos you see are going to be burning cash strategies, meaning you create an ad, and you put money, and you most typically you have different ad groups with different interests, and you're putting different budgets, let's say a $5 budget on each ad per day, and you're running these different ads in each different ad groups, and you're paying for these ads, and you're waiting to see which one pops off, and then you kill the ones that don't, and you run the ones that do. That is essentially burning cash. You're throwing money into the fire, and you're seeing what ends up working. I never do that, ever. I'm not saying it's wrong. It has worked for people. I'm just saying I don't do it. To me, it doesn't make sense. I don't do it. And I've burned plenty of cash on Pinterest trying to learn this and trying to figure this out. I do not do it. I settled for, and settled sounds bad in some kind of people's minds, but like I said, don't jump to conclusions, but I am very, very comfortable. If you want to use the word settling, we can use that word, but I'm very comfortable using the laser targeting strategy. I want to be clear about that. Now, I want to be clear also. The laser targeting strategy, it leads to more consistent sales over time, but it's much less volatile. Meaning, if I have a successful ad with the laser targeting strategy versus if I have a successful ad with the throwing cash or burning cash strategy, my laser targeting strategy is going to provide me sales consistently. In fact, I could almost put it on a calendar and bet that the sales are going to come in certain days, okay, based on statistics. I look at my website conversion rate, I look at the traffic rate, I look at the demand rate, the trend rate, all these kind of things, all right? But throwing cash is much more volatile. For example, if both ads are successful, let's say with this type of strategy, I know I'm going to get, let's say, 5 sales a week on a certain product. Now, you might say 5 sales a week, that's not enough. I'm using just an example of numbers. That's all it is. But with this strategy, I might get 40 sales in one weekend. Do you see what I'm trying to say? But what happens is with these ads, they typically tend to die off relatively quick. It could be a few weeks, it could be a few months, but eventually the ad is going to die off. With these ads are consistent over time. Okay, so meaning years into the future, I can keep generating profit. Okay, so it's not a problem. And I'm not speaking on theory. This is something I actually do. If you want to see just go to the course page. Once again, I'm not promoting the course page or the course, but I actually have a video showing different sales update. I even have my sales screenshots here. Like you can see, these are businesses that produce an income for me. Okay, you can take a look at them. You can see all the data. It's all there. All right. This is on my course page. Not promoting the course page necessarily, just simply saying on the Pinterest course, if you want to see some of the data, you can see it. All right. So let's go ahead and continue. So I only do one strategy, which is this strategy, the targeting strategy. I do not do burning cash ever. You're never going to see me sit there and advise people to pay $5 on X amount of ads, wait till the ad works, wait till the ads don't work, kill off the ones that don't work. If they all don't work, then try again. I don't do that. Okay, so I'm just going to be clear about that right now. I don't do that. Okay? Now, there's also another benefit, is that 98% of the users on Pinterest have purchased through Pinterest before. The beautiful thing about Pinterest is that Pinterest is an inspiration company. They provide inspiration to individuals. That's all it is. And 99% of the times, the inspiration is product-based inspiration, whether it be a nice pair of sneakers, whether it be a table, a handcrafted table, or maybe it's an inspirational room design with certain products in the room. Most of the time, it's product-based inspiration. You know why? Because if somebody's scrolling through and they see a photo on Pinterest of, let's say, a kitchen table that's placed nicely in an image, they might say, well, where can I get that same kitchen table to? And they're going to start going down the loophole, okay? They're going to click on the pin. They're going to read they're going to check the link. They're going to click on the link. It's going to take them to a page, etc., okay? Now, that's on the organic side, but I'm just kind of giving you an example of how it works. The organic side is really not different from the inorganic side, the paid media side, all right? So let's go ahead and kind of expose some things here for you. All right. Some things to know, okay? And I might have mentioned some of these before, but let's go into it. Organic posts typically perform better than ads by about 10 to 30%. However, ads help you also grow your organic size on Pinterest. I kind of said this where I mentioned how the organic and the growth and all that. But yeah, it's true. An ad is going to a organic post. If I take an organic, let's just assume I had 100,000 followers. If I take the organic post and let's just say somehow I can control that it reaches 100,000 people. Let's just say it reached all of my followers. The organic post is typically going to do 10 to 30% better than the actual ad is person to person, meaning for the amount of people that it reaches. So if my ad reaches 100,000 people and my organic post reaches 100,000 people, typically 10 to 30% is that margin that it performs better. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And once again, I want you to understand is that because with ads, it's a money machine. If I put in money, I'm reaching people instantly, right? So those people who see my ad can also end up following me and also enter my sphere of organic influence. Meaning, when I create posts into the future, they can actually not reach out, but they can follow me, they can engage with my content, and whenever I post into the future, they'll see those posts, right? So very important. And that's why crafting a good ad is crucially important. All right. And like I said, there's so many moving parts to advertising that it's important that you nail every aspect if you want to truly be successful. All right. So that's the first part. All right. All right. Now let's go ahead and go into applying Pinterest to print on demand explanation. I'm going to go into that. All right. I'm going to explain how I find customers with Pinterest. I'm going to explain how I find customers that are actively in the market for products and how I start running Pinterest ads. Now, with that being said, I'm going to do that on the whiteboard. So I'm going to leave that to the end. All right. I'm going to go into certain things that you should know when it comes down to Pinterest advertising. You already gained a ton of information already, especially if you never advertised on there before and maybe you're thinking about it. Consumer education can occur within a Pinterest ad, but it's not price savvy, and I'll explain what I mean. This comes back to the burning cash or the laser targeting. When I'm laser targeting, I want you guys to understand I am finding people who already want my product. That is the whole thing. That's why it is laser targeting in essence. I'm finding people who already want my product. I will repeat that one more time. With laser targeting, the reason why I'm not burning money and I'm not testing different things and I'm not testing different ads and I'm not playing around with things like that is because I am already finding people that want my product. I'll be clear on that. Okay? Now, let me go ahead and continue reading this because I don't want to, get into a different area. It's not price savvy, okay? When I have to give education to my consumer, what does that mean? It means that I have to, loop them into the funnel of education, then trying to pique interest, then trying to convince them to buy. I don't do any of that. This is once again why I don't do the cash burning system, because I am not here to find the interest base, try to convert them, try to explain to them why my product is better. I'm not interested in any of that. I'm simply finding a customer who wants my product and offering the product to them. That is the easiest pathway to sales, okay? Now, I never create warm-ups either. Now, people might say to me, what is a warm-up? If you're familiar with what a cold audience is, then you know what a warm audience is and a hot audience. The more the audience member is looped through your education funnel, meaning you're giving them information about the product, the warmer they become, right? And I don't heat up customers to offer them the sale. I simply present the ad on a conversion-focused ad right in front of the customer in the first instance. Once again, this is why I don't have to burn cash, all right? Many of you have probably tried ads where you're trying to inform the customer, try to explain why your product is better, etc. I don't go through all that, all right? Now, I wrote that in all capitals because whenever you have to educate a customer, I want you to ingrain this in your mind, burn it into your brain. Whenever I have to inform a customer about my product or the unique features about my product, that means I have to spend more money. Because in order for you to communicate to a customer, you have to spend more money. Okay? It could be they might have to see your ad for a second, third, fourth time, fifth time. There's somebody out there, I don't know who created this idea, but in order for a customer to make a purchasing decision, they have to interact with your brand 7 times. That is something that somebody said who is habitually trying to educate consumers on the product. If the consumer already knows about the product, they don't need to interact with the brand 7 times in order to buy. That is a fallacy. That's why context is key. Think of all those times that it took you a long time to buy something. You probably had to do some research, you had to do some learning, you had to talk to some people. That's called consumer education. And consumer education costs money. But think about all those other times where it was the first instance you saw a product, doesn't matter what it is. It could be a t-shirt, it could be a pair of pants, it could be whatever it is, right? And you bought it right away. Why? Because you are already educated. Does that make sense? So for example, if I walk into a Walmart and I need to buy an air conditioner window unit, I'm probably going to have to do some research. I'm going to have to search what the word BTU means. I'm going to have to search the wattage. I'm going to have to search the electric power. I'm going to search how good is the AC unit for the square footage. What room can I put it in? How big it is? What window can it fit in? I have to ask a lot of questions. I have to learn a lot. I have to be educated. But if I'm going to go buy a t-shirt, I already know what a t-shirt is. I already know what a cotton t-shirt is or a polyester or whatever, and I go buy my t-shirt. I already know my size. There's not much talking that needs to go on there. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's a critical difference, all right? The next thing I want to talk about is web optimization. These are things you should know before running your ads. Web optimization. Your website has to be optimized, and it is so important that it is optimized. I would even argue. Now, some ad people might disagree with me, but I will argue for many circumstances that if the website is not optimized, right, not only will you screw the ad, but more importantly, having your website to be optimized is more important, at least more important, than the ad itself. That I'm going to make that argument. Now, I'm going to use an example here, and I actually wrote here, for example, air fryer filters. I'll explain what I mean by that. I had a client who booked a consultation call with me for his website and why his ads weren't working properly, okay? The ad was great. The targeting was great. Everything was on point, but the website was totally off. It didn't answer any of the questions that the person wanted to know. And I'm going to give you a very basic example. I'm not going to explain the whole thing here. This is a free video at the end of the day. I'll give you guys one example here. All right. The individual did not explain when the product was going to be delivered, the shipping time, or the expected delivery. You have to realize that when a customer comes to your website, they have a list of questions that need to be answered. The more complex the product is, the longer those list of questions. The least complex, the shorter the list of questions. If I'm buying a t-shirt, there's not many questions I need to ask. All I have to do is give the right size, maybe even material. That's pretty much it. I might then look for the basics. Delivery time, shipping time, when am I going to get it, etc. Like basic stuff. This person, right, on their website, one of the basic things that they did not include is the expected delivery date the product is going to arrive. So that was one of the things that killed his ad from succeeding, right? And like I said, that's one example. I'm not going to go over the many examples that he had, but he was selling air fryer filters. So essentially, you put these air fryer filters in your air fryer, and your air fryer is spotless, it's clean, etc. I'll give you another example. Actually, this is crazy. I'm going to give you guys another example. There were no graphics or videos or photos on the website that actually showed what the benefit of the air fryer was, the air fryer filter was. It didn't show like the difference between a clean and a dirty one. It didn't show like the graphic of how you can put the air fryer filter in, then put like a piece of chicken on top. It didn't show these things, right? And this is what I mean when I say the website needs to be just as optimized as the ad. Just as optimized. Now for print on demand, like I said, you're in luck. If you're doing print on demand, if you're doing t-shirts, hoodies, whatever, like any kind of print on demand kind of stuff, the list of questions is much less. You're not selling something that is, I guess you could say, that needs consumer education to it. Most people already know what a t-shirt is. I mean, let's face it, 99.9% of the world already knows what that is. So, you guys know what I'm trying to say here. There's less consumer education there, all right? And that was kind of an example that I wanted to leave here for website optimization. The next one, a more targeted ad is all right. Let me kind of break this down. When I do my ad targeting, okay, it's a highly targeted ad. It's going to cost more upfront, but over time, I'm going to get more money out of the deal. I'm going to generate more profit, and I'm going to beat the guy who's burning cash. The guy who's burning cash is per click or per action is going to pay less, right? He's going to pay less, but he's going to have to spend much more over time because he's going to be filtering through viewers that are not actually interested in the product because of lack of consumer education. Do you see what I'm saying there? If you didn't pay attention, you got to replay that part, okay? That is a pro tip. But anyways, let's go ahead and continue. When I'm running an ad, because it's so highly targeted, Pinterest charges me more upfront per action. Does that make sense? I'm breaking this down for you. Pinterest is going to charge me more per action. However, the charge more is negligible, because if I took the same ad to that of a Google, I'd be paying 7 times more anyway. Do you see what I'm saying here? However, and this is why I say I only do laser targeting. I don't do the burning cash strategy. To me, I'm not going to insult it. It just doesn't make sense to me from a logical standpoint. Okay? And if everything makes sense so far, guys, when you're watching this, type in ugly gorilla in the comments down below. Type in ugly gorilla in the comments down below if everything is making sense so far. Okay? Because you could really take this stuff and expand to more than just print on demand, but that's a whole different conversation for a different time. It's really not that much different, but like I said, consumer education does play a part of that. But regardless, the last tip or the last thing I want you to know before running ads on Pinterest is that market size matters. And it's important to understand the differences in market size and how they will impact your brand and your business. Let me explain. Because I'm doing this laser targeting system, right? I am paying more, obviously, per action, but my market size is also reduced because I'm interacting directly with who needs the product now. Who wants the product now? That's who I'm interacting with. I'm not interacting with a whole bunch of people that I have to, educate them. I'm not doing that. I'm interacting with who wants it now. Therefore, my market size is smaller in the present tense, okay? A person who's not doing the laser targeting has a much, much larger market size. Now, immediately, and this is why I said don't jump to conclusions, immediately people say, well, I want a bigger market size. Bigger market sizes are better. This is where people go wrong. This is also why Pinterest charges me more upfront per action. Is because it's harder to find that select customer. But then again, I make more profit because I'm finding that select customer. People immediately think having a smaller market size is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing because I'm with discernment, I'm selecting the right individual for my product, okay? I am not trying to burn cash. I'm not trying to show my product to the masses and reach them. And remember what I said in the video. The burning cash system is much more volatile. You can make a lot more money overnight, potentially. When I say you can, I'm talking about what's possible in this instance, not what is probable. Okay, with the laser targeting system, okay, I am much more or much less, put it that way, volatile. Meaning, I'm not going to just wake up with $700,000 in sales one night. I'm going to actually be accurately calculating and predicting with accuracy how much I can make per weekly basis. Which is why I say, especially I say this in the course all the time, once you figure out what it takes to create the ad and you get it to work, now all it is a matter of repetition, rinse and repeat with many different products scaling. So let me put this into consideration. Let's say you have a product and you're doing the same laser targeting strategy, and that laser targeting strategy is making you $200 a month, or $200 a week on one product. That's $800 a month. It's not much, but let's just say it's $200. By the time you take out the cost of the product, the shipping, the whatever, the fees, let's just say you're taking home 30%. So 30% of 200, you're looking at about $66 a week. That's 66 times 4. That's about 24, something like, I don't know. I don't even know. 66 times 4, 66, 128. That's 200 something, okay? What is that, 248? I don't know. It's 200 something, okay? It's not much. But now that you know how to do it, all you have to do is do it on more than one product. You could do it on 8 products, 10 products, 15 products, 30 products. But the thing you want to understand is not all products are created equal, because market sizes are dependent on the need of the product. And the market size is dependent on the audience. And the audience does shift. For example, if I need to buy a tire today, and I'm using a tire as an example because my tire popped on my car, I need it today. I'm not going to need it 2 weeks into the future, and I didn't need it a month in the past. I need it today. Do you see what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to say is the market always refreshes on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. There are more people or new people that replenish the old in the market. So it's very hard, especially with print on demand, to engulf a market if you're doing laser targeting strategy. Now, if you're doing burning cash strategy, you absolutely can engulf the market within a period of days. You see those people that run, let's say, $10,000 worth of ads, they make $300,000 in a weekend. It's possible, but that's the burning cash strategy. And to get to that point, you might have to go through 20, 30, 40K in ad spend before you reach the 10K that actually makes you the 300K. Does that make sense? For most people listening, they don't have the capital to do the burning cash. I'm just going to keep it real. Most people don't. And I'm not even talking about big numbers like 300K, 10K. Forget numbers like that. Let's think smaller numbers. Let's think spending $50, $80, $100 a day. Most people, no disrespect, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but they can't do that, financially speaking. I think the average income in America is like, or the median income is something like 37 or 47. I don't remember what the number is, but most people can't do that. You got to think logically. Like if somebody's spending $100 a day just burning cash, that comes out to $3,000 a month. $3,000 a month times 12, $36,000 a year. Most people can't do that. Most people's salaries are like, or average, let's just say average, 40, 50K. If they spend 30-something thousand on ads, how are they going to eat? How are they going to, buy clothing? How are they going to pay for gas, insurance, etc.? So that doesn't work, right? At least for most people. I definitely would not recommend you do the burning cash strategy, but to each their own. Everybody has their own choice. I'm just simply sharing my experience. Now, you finally stayed till the end. Let's see how long the video is. 32 minutes in. Let's go ahead and now let me show you and let me share with you on a drawing kind of approach how I make this all happen, okay? So what I do is first, I do market research. And I'll explain what I mean by market research. And you don't have to do it this way. There's actually 2 ways to do it. And I'll explain it all in the video here. If you are willing to stay with me for the video, I'll explain, all right? So the first thing I'm doing is market research. And there's a product out there called a keyword research tool. There's so many different ones. You could do a simple Google search. And you can understand how much search there is for something on Google. Now, I want you to understand that Pinterest is a search engine similar to Google. Now, it's not the same, but it's similar. And what I mean by similar is you can type in a keyword on Pinterest. Let's just say green leggings. Let's use that as an example. And then you get a bunch of different pins. And these pins, right, are what? They're linked to websites, okay? Now, on these pins randomly, not randomly, but within this pin structure, you have ad pins. So any pin here with an A represents an ad. Now, when your pin pops up, that is called an impression, okay? I want you to know about that. That's called an impression. So as a wise individual, if you're paying for ads, you have to be smart. You have to look at your competition. You have to do basic research on who is advertising. And you have to one-up the competition by bringing a different look for your product, right? Now, that's the first strategy. It could work a different way, where you don't do the research, right? And you just simply create products as you feel, and then you could look at your best product, and you can advertise that way instead. I recommend that no matter which strategy you go for, you always put your best foot forward and create the very best products for the ones that you're specifically advertising for. If you're doing SEO, that's a completely different strategy, and it's a completely different universe. The laws don't apply for advertising because your dollar is at risk. Your money's at risk. You're paying for this kind of stuff. This is why I'm very, very strict on the way I do advertising, right? So you create your product, and then what happens is you have it on your website, but you need to get viewers to your website. But this doesn't happen. They don't come to your website unless they see the pin. But the pin doesn't exist because you don't, or the pin doesn't exist because you don't have an audience, right? If you have an organic audience, well, life becomes easy, right? And the size of the organic audience definitely plays a role, meaning an audience of 500 followers or 500 consistent viewers of your pins is nothing like having 500,000, right? And so in order for you to actually have 500,000 consistent viewers, you would have to have, let's just say, much more followers, right? Because not all your followers are going to see all your posts. So let's go ahead and continue here, all right? So you need now realize that you need traffic to your pin. Before you can get traffic to your website, you need traffic to your pin. Well, how does this happen? Well, first thing you need to do is you need to create the pins. That's obviously the first thing you need to do. Now, however you decide to do that is different for everybody. There are some people here who are using Pinterest that have personal photographers. Some other people will do their own photography. Some people, they're going to hire models. I know I did for my very, very first clothing business. I hired models. And I actually hired a photographer. And then when I saw what the photographer did, I simply bought the camera and started doing it myself, and I actually got pretty damn good at it. But I had to hire models. I had to do these things. You have to figure it out for your business, and you have to figure out how you're going to stand out. Some people are willing to do mock-ups, right? For those people who know what I'm talking about, place it, right? I'll leave a link in the description where you can get mock-ups, or maybe I won't. Honestly, I probably won't even leave the link in the description. But if you're going to do mock-ups, right, you also have to understand that every place where you cut corners, it will cost you. You have to understand that, right? So your image, your pin, is competing against hundreds, if not thousands of other pins. Do you want your pin to just be simply one impression and that's it? Or do you want it to be one action? And this is the difference. When you do advertising on Pinterest, things are measured in CPM and CPA. So you have a cost per action, and then you have cost per mille, or 1,000 impressions. And what happens is you will pay an additional cost for the action, but the additional cost is negligible, like I said. But in order for you to even get the action, right? In order for you to even get the click, or the view, or the save, whatever it might be, the follow, right? You're going to have to stand out. Your pin has to stand out. So you have to think about how to do that. And Pinterest is a very visual platform, very visual. In fact, it's all visual. I mean, you could go to Pinterest. You have to have an image that stands out, all right? There's not too much I could say there that could convince somebody to do that. I mean, you're just going to have to. If you don't, I mean, it is what it is. You're just going to have to pay the price, right? Now, once you do that, right, you're going to start getting clicks. And with your pin, you have to have the right copy. Now, this is where things get a little bit... Okay, so this is where things get a little bit deeper now. With your pin, right, after it stands out, you have to essentially have the right information on the pin to effectively and quickly describe to the consumer, or aka the viewer in this case, what the pin is about and how they can get more, how they can learn more, how can they go deeper into the rabbit hole. So you have a pin, right? And within the pin, there's a title, there's text, there's a link, right? This is where things come into play, where we're talking about copy. And with copy is essentially the art of the written word, the words that you're going to use to allow the customer to know what you're doing. In this case, if you're selling, and like I said, there's a lot of people who are listening to this who might not necessarily be doing print on demand, But for print on demand's sake, if I'm selling a t-shirt, I'm selling a legging, I'm selling a hat, I'm selling a mug, I'm selling a whatever, a lot of the times with a good photo, with a good creative, you can do that without having them read any text. You can do that right in the image, okay? So copy comes into play, right? Where you're transferring the user, or let's just call them a user in this case, from Pinterest to your website now, okay? Now, this is where my strategy comes into play. The individual who comes from Pinterest straight to my website is at a much more, they're coming from a state of need. They know they want the product already because I've targeted people who want the product. I don't have to now sit here and explain to them why the product is good, what the deal is, all this kind of, I don't have to do that because they're already here for that. Now, on the other side, we have the people who are burning the cash, the burning cash strategy. Those individuals, right? When they see an ad, they could just say, oh, that's cool, and they can keep moving. That's why the burning cash strategy is tough on most people, because the burning cash strategy, they have to reach out to so many people, right, before they get the win. And in this case, the first win is getting them to the website. That's the first win. And trust me, a lot of people can get you to your website, but to actually get them to convert, to make them buy, is another step in and of itself, which we didn't even cross yet. But there's this statement, it's like you have to kiss frogs, and basically that comes from like an analogy from like a Disney movie where a princess has to kiss frogs until the Prince Charming or whoever he is actually the individual. The frog turns into the prince, aka you have a winner. In this case, when it comes down to advertising, right, you have to kiss a lot of frogs if you're doing this burning cash system, because you're spending hard-earned money on frogs, not customers, because they're going to come, click on your ad, sometimes not even click on your ad, but they're going to click on your ad, they're going to say, oh, that's cool, and they're going to just walk off. They're going to walk off. And then you have to spend more money educating them, more money creating demand, and then eventually they might buy. I don't do that, all right? I go straight to the individual who wants my product, and then I present it to them, and when they click, they get straight to the product page. So at this point, it's now do or die. And what is this do or die approach? Well, let's go ahead and move forward. This is my website, right? And my website determines the success in percentage form of this individual becoming a customer. And all I have to do at this point, all I have to do is fulfill their objections. And to be honest, when it comes down with print on demand, this is why print on demand is that much better, is there's very low objections if you've targeted the right individual. What are the potential objections? What are the things that would make somebody say no? Well, one of the things could be trust or lack of trust thereof, right? So lack of trust is really one of the things. Not trust, because when somebody trusts you, they buy. When they don't trust you, they don't buy. So lack of trust. So what are some things, for example, that contribute to lack of trust? Just as the other example I gave with the air fryer filters. If you don't tell your customers when they're expecting the product to come, that creates a lack of trust. Hence, they won't buy. Bad images on your website, pixelated images, images that don't look clean, they don't look professionally shot. Lack of trust. In 2023, every image should look good, right? An ugly website design, lack of trust. If you're using Shopify, which I know a lot of people do, I do too. I have some Shopify stores. It has to have a theme, and the theme has to be proper. It has to have the right psychological cognitive conversion boosters. What are those? Meaning certain pop-ups, certain things that alleviate trust. And what are the things that alleviate trust? Like I said, I gave you one example, the shipping. There are many other examples, right? I describe these examples in the course. I'm not going to go over them here. If you want to get into the course, you can go ahead and get it. But there are many different psychological, cognitive decision makers. And I'll explain what I mean. What is a psychological cognitive decision maker? Have you ever had an experience where you're walking through the street and you've had an interaction with somebody that just doesn't rub you the right way? Something just doesn't feel right. And you feel like, you know what, no, I'm going to walk off. Or maybe it was a business transaction or a product that you're going to buy and just something doesn't feel right. And even though you might want the product, it might be nice looking, it might be interesting, you might even have a desire for it, but for some reason, something's off and you don't buy. All those things come into play, not just trust, but really the core root of that is cognitive psychology, aka the cognitive biases. These are things that human beings inherently think of. You really can't fix them. So as an individual, you have to understand how human beings think, and you have to configure your website to the needs of the customer. The whole trust and the shipping thing was just one example of many. As a seller, you have to do many things, and this is why I say there are many moving parts. You could definitely go free on the path figuring those out for yourself. It's going to take time, it's going to take money, it's going to take effort. I had to do it. You know, I talk about this before, but spending $80K on Pinterest ads was very difficult, right? It's not like you could just wake up, spend $80K like it's nothing. I mean, it took me years to do that, right? But I eventually figured it out. So for everybody, it's a little bit different because of the nature of their product. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to select what strategy you go with when it comes down to Pinterest advertising if you're going to end up paying for ads. Now, once again, the reason why I recommend Pinterest as opposed to other platforms for your very first ad strategy is because Pinterest is 7 to 5 times cheaper, depending on which platform we're talking about. I think, like I said, I have the poster here in terms of how much it's going to cost compared to other platforms. And most importantly, you got to put it into action, right? Whether you take this course or whether you watch my YouTube videos on Pinterest ads, and I have a few, you got to put it into action. You got to go out there and do it. You can watch a million videos on advertising, but if you don't actually create the ads, if you don't create the website, if you don't go through the hard steps, what's the point? You know, what's the point? So hopefully this video helped out. This video was more than long enough. It's over 45 minutes. And hopefully it was effective. If you want to grab the Pinterest course and learn more, I'll leave a link in the description. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out. Bye.